This person that we're going to be interviewing today, not we, but I, because it's Aqui con Kyna, right? We'll be interviewing Dr. Travis Weeks, who is an award-winning St. Lucian, and I have to read it, guys, because it's a long list. Actor, poet, playwright, director, and cultural critic of St. Lucia. And tonight he is going to share with us that play, his most recent play that he's going to be penetrating the Venezuelan market with. Take Me to Mon Repos. I learned how to say it in, is it patois?
Patois,
I learned how to say it in patois. Let me try. Menez-moi, Mon Repos. But anyway, we're going to have the interview with him. We're going to get to know him a little better. And during this interview, we'll be doing it in Spanish and in English because we want everybody to know. Okay? Ya tú sabes, ya regresamos.
Take over me. I wanna jump up all day, all day. I wanna wind up all day, all day. I want big people party, a liquor up inside me. I wanna jump up all day, all day. I wanna wind up all day. Head back on a real high, and a real tight. Got some old, got some old. Man, a real high, and a real vibe. Got some old, got some old.
Hola, 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 de nuevo. Soy yo, Kyna de Aqui con Kyna, y esta noche vamos a tener una entrevista con Dr. Travis Weeks. Él es de Santa Lucia, es poeta, actor, director y crítico cultural de Santa Lucia, y tiene un obra, libro también, pero es en forma de libro. Se llama Take Me to Mon Repos, o sea, Menez-moi, Mon Repos, okay? Es creole en la lengua criolla. So, thank you again, Dr. Travis. Is it okay if I call you Dr. Weeks? Dr. Travis, how do you want me to call you today?
Call me whatever you
Don't
feel
say
comfortable
that! Well, this is Dr. Travis here with us this evening, and I want to let you know he is very passionate about his craft as everything. So, Dr. Travis, can you tell us, and I would explain it in Spanish, por supuesto. Who are you? What do you want people to know about you? Give us a little bit of...
First, I want to thank you very much. I feel very honored to be here with you. When I first met you, you were performing. So it's great that we're talking about performance.
Correct.
And and I'm grateful to be here, at Errol Fabian's studio at Gael, and to be working and sharing as well with fellow Trinidadians and Caribbean people. Who am I? Well, you said I'm from St. Lucia, right? I'm Travis Weeks from St. Lucia. And a theater person, I've been a teacher, educator all my life. But at the same time, I've always been working with theater. The two have come together because now I'm a lecturer in theater as well as the theater coordinator at the Department of Creative and Festival Arts at the University of the West Indies here in St. Augustine. And so I continue to write and to direct and to teach theater. That's basically who I am. That's my life really. I'm a writer, I'm a critique, and I think being here in Trinidad, there's just so much reading to do of culture, culture as text, and not just text in terms of written text, but as cultural text, as social text, in terms of your music, your religions, your ethnicities, your cultural expressions and forms. This society is so dynamic culturally. It's like, so
As we say, we are the
absolutely
melting
dynamic
pot.
culturally.
The melting pot or the pepper pot?
Well,
What do you say?
melting suggests, when something is melted, it suggests that it just stays, it's melted and it stays
Correct.
static.
But you can add anything to this pot.
But here, nothing is
So it's a
static.
pillow.
It's like, it's very,
It's a pillow.
yeah, it's beautiful, it's wonderful.
Así. El doctor es de Santa Lucia, también estudió literatura, teatro y estudios culturales en distantes sedes de la Universidad de West Indies, o sea, UWI, y siempre estaba en la escuela de drama de Jamaica también. You were in drama school in
Jamaica.
Yes, I remember reading that.
Yeah.
Su
I
trabajo
also studied in Barbados as well. Yeah.
Okay, él estudió en muchas partes, por ejemplo en Barbados, en Jamaica, pero siempre en teatro y
Cultura.
Yeah, teatro cultural. So he has been constantly in that line of work, in studies, cultural theater. Nice. Su trabajo académico se enfoca en las tradiciones criollas presentes en la obra de Derek Walcott. I read too that your plays are focused, or take a little, what we say, your moral focus from Derek Walcott.
My PhD research was on his theater, right?
Okay.
Quite clearly, I learned from him as well.
Okay.
So I learned. Having studied his theater.
So you didn't really choose him; it just happened to flow that way. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes and no. I know what you mean. Being from St. Lucia, where he's originally from, and studying his work, it kind of seemed natural for me to study him.
Okay.
But of course, I made some deliberate choices to bring academia to it as well, or bring it to academia. Well, not bring it to it, bring academia to it. And so, in terms of studying his craft, particularly, how he incorporates a lot of the Creole forms. Yeah, that is what.
The traditional Creole forms, that's
Absolutely.
what I read there. Nice, because
Yes.
we have a new type of Creole, something happening, I would say. Everything is changing, as you were just saying about Trinidad. You said that Trinidad is it cannot be a melting pot, because you'd be looking at stagnancy and containing something. But Trinidad,
Very dynamic.
as you know it, correct.
Very
dynamic. The
Yes.
culture, the food is a great expression. We just have an influx of Venezuelans, so that's getting even more.
Absolutely.
Juicy, nice, well, rico, la cultura rica, o sea. Actualmente, él es coordinador de teatro en the University of West Indies, la Universidad de West Indies, UWI. So you are the theater coordinator for UWI.
I am.
How has that been?
Well, it's been very, very rewarding. I've learned a lot. Like I said, like being here in Trinidad, is for me also a learning experience. Although I'm teaching, although I'm coordinating, so interacting with my colleagues, I learn a lot from them, and even the students I learn from them, and I share as well. So I share from my own experience as best as I could. And well, coordinating is an administrative, position. So I'm learning from that as well. I learned from the people before me, like Rima Williams, for example, and the current head, Jessel Marie, who are, so these who have been in administration for a while, I've learned from them. So it's been very, very rewarding for me, working as coordinator.
Okay. Para él, la vida como coordinador en la universidad es como un viaje muy interesante en que él está enseñando de la gente y también está compartiendo información, y es como una balancea. So you say it's like a balance, more or less. You sharing information, you're learning at the same time.
Absolutely.
And you enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Because he está respondiendo con una sonrisa. You are enjoying what you're saying, because I could see that in your expression, that you're delivering your answers with such a smile.
Yes.
There's no fake. This is because you are what you do, so you are your brand and you enjoy it.
Thank you.
Right, so we want to get to know more about this play.
Right.
Right, this book, Take Me to Mon Repos, and I want to say it again because I practice make permanent, right? Memoir, Mon Repos, right? Which is not Spanish, we know. It's a book, a play that's going to be shown in Venezuela theaters next weekend. And when I say next weekend, it's Friday and Saturday, or is it just
Well, it'll be
Saturday?
performing on the 11th and the 12th.
Okay, the 11th and the 12th, which is the Friday,
Is it Friday
and
and
Saturday.
Saturday? Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so the play for this book, okay, Venezuela, por favor, prepárate por Take Me to Mon Repos el viernes que viene, el viernes el 11 y el sábado el 12 de abril en el Teatro de Venezuela.
In Caracas, yeah.
En Caracas,
Alright,
bueno, pero no va a ser en español, pero habrá las palabras en español durante the play. Yes, you said that they will have the words or subtitles.
There will be subtitles
in Spanish. Although, aunque el play será in English. Okay, so don't worry, you will understand. But we want to get a little bit more into Take Me to Mon Repos. Let's look at the why. What inspired you for this picture at the front?
All right, there are a couple of things there. Well, one is the history of St. Lucia. You know, research, studying art, and so on is a very interesting journey, you know. And what makes the journey interesting is how you discover things along the way more. You might start out with one interest, and you find yourself learning more as you go along. I'm saying this because I was very interested in a particular aspect of St. Lucian history. You know, that period between 1794 and 1796. You know, our Caribbean history is fraught with a lot of drama because of the European colonized, the French, the Spanish, the British fighting for the islands and so on, right? So we've had this. So that period, 1794 to 1796, was very, very crucial, you know, for the Caribbean islands because the British and the French had reached a kind of a head, you know, in terms of battling, particularly for the Windward Islands. So I was very interested in that period, but more in not so much about the colonizers, but the people inside the islands, people in the islands, what was happening to them, and how they were really responding to all those wars and so on. And what I wanted really as well was to look at human beings, you know, so a man, his love, his romantic interest, even a planter and his wife, you know, so a runaway slave. So my characters,
the daily activities of these people,
absolutely.
basically.
So my character is a planter, is a planter and his wife, and my other character is a maroon, a runaway slave, and his girlfriend who's a house slave. So I want to look at how this was affecting them. So, for example, the slaves, their dreams, you know, they dream of wanting peace, raising a family, and so on. How they navigating through all this. Human beings, that's what we're concerned about. And even the planter and his wife, how that affected them as well as people. So that is what I wanted to write about, you know, within the context of all this thing. Because we always study history with the global, the huge, the you know, issues and so on. But people are the ones that are really, you know. So that is it. So this is what the play was about. But I was telling you a while ago how research is a journey. But I discovered something. And that is, you know, the connection to Trinidad. Because, as you would know, the Spanish had offered the French planters a cedula in 1780. And that meant that the French planters could come to Trinidad and bring the enslaved with them. Because at that time, basically all you had in Trinidad was the Coco Payol and Amerindians.
Okay.
You know, you didn't have a slave population as well. And the place was very sparsely populated, but you had all those lands. So the Spanish were Catholics, the French were Catholics, all right? And because of the devastation of the French colonies after the Haitian Revolution, the French Revolution and so on, the French colonies were in a mess. And you're talking about Grenada, St. Lucia, Martinique, Haiti, they were a mess. So the Spanish said to the French planters, hey, come, we have all this land in Trinidad, come and bring your enslaved people. So that is the connection. So in my play,
We in the middle of the melee.
that's it.
We were in the middle of the melee. So for him, the interest was, él se interesó la historia de Trinidad y Tobago, la historia de Santa Lucia, y también para él la historia es como un viaje interesante porque había mucha gente luchando por las islas del Caribe. Y él quiso saber más, pero no más de las plantadores, pero más de la gente en las islas, lo que estaba pasando en la vida diaria. So basically what I was saying here, just to make sure you're looking. I know you know matter, you know Spanish.
I understand.
So I was saying, okay, good. I know you know a little Spanish. And I was basically regurgitating that, for you, history is a journey and you wanted to find out more than what the planters were doing, but what everybody was doing on daily life, more or less. And the play was taken away from that, because this is what I put together here. I said here, the play was born out of the desire to address silent parts of Caribbean history, particularly in the migration of French planters and enslaved Africans to Trinidad under the Spanish cedula, which significantly changed the region's cultural identity. Right? And this is what we see here today. Okay? La obra nace del deseo de abordar partes silenciadas de la historia caribeña, en especial la migración de plantadores franceses y africanos esclavizados a Trinidad, only Trinidad or Trinidad and Tobago? Just Trinidad,
Trinidad at the time.
A Trinidad bajo la cédula de población española, so under the Spanish cédula, right? Cédula. Un hecho que moldeó, lo siento, profundamente la identidad cultural de la región. So that desire for us to recognize what really shaped our current identity. And we are living through a time where it's shaping again.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because you see, the thing about it is that nexus there during that period there, of very intense wars, people are being reshaped, because they have the adjustments they have to make. So when you have a situation, for example, where you have the British and the French on a small island, and you have descendants of Africans who are enslaved, a lot of adjustments, they're rubbing off of each other, to put it very simply, culturally and otherwise. So the lead character in my play, for example, his name is Bwiga.
Oh, that's what I want to know. I wanted to know how to pronounce that.
Bwiga.
What does that mean? Do you know?
Bwiga, well, in our Creole, if they say you're Bwiga, that means you're very aggressive. Yeah?
Oh.
Bwiga.
Bwiga significa un nombre muy agresivo. So
Right.
an aggressive person or an aggressive man.
Well,
Bwiga
person.
Pero
Person.
por ejemplo, en la obra, Bwiga es un carácter principal.
Yes.
But in the book, is he aggressive?
He is absolutely. He has to be. He's a maroon.
Él es Bwiga.
He's a maroon. He's a
Okay.
runaway slave. But there are English. So there's brigand. That's French and in English. So Bwiga is a creolization of the
So
word.
Bwiga, he was the slave.
So yeah. So he's the lead, right? So what I'm saying. So now he is able to speak French.
Wow.
And he can speak Creole and he can speak English, because remember at that time, because he's a leader, and at that time the colonizers are trying to play both, so he now is between French and the British, and to be an intelligent leader and very strategic, he has to deal with those. So he can speak English, he can speak French, and he can also speak Creole, because Creole that's how he leads his own people. That's how he leads his own people.
Yes.
So you can imagine now that when they come over to Trinidad, where you have the Coco Payol, right, there would be another interaction there now with Spanish, and you also have the Amerindians, another interaction as well. But we have to look at all this positively, and that's the point as well of my research. So me, coming out of that experience, can you imagine how powerful we are?
Yeah.
We have all this. And we had to take all this in order to survive. In order to survive, we had to take all of this. So
When you mean that we had to take all of this, we had to take all of the cultural penetration to survive?
The cultural influences.
Or the influences.
To put it simply, for example, if out of necessity you have to learn French to deal with the French officials, and out of necessity you have to learn English to deal with the British military personnel, but you also have to speak your Creole to your people who you are leading.
Yeah.
Yeah?
And if you're brought to
Trinidad,
resistance.
that's it. And if you're brought to Trinidad, then you have to communicate and adapt to the Spanish over here as well. So I mean,
adaptations. Yes.
So you're drawing on all of this, but and that's why I don't always like the idea of the melting pot term. You know, it makes it too static. But remember that because your trajectory is survival, is progress, is seeing about your own people as well. If you have responsibilities, a wife or husband and children and so on, it means that the idea of doing this is for you to continue to be dynamic and to grow and develop. So you're not really staying with one place. Yeah, you have various cultural influences, but that is for your own economic and social mobility, right? You know, and which is what it's about. So Bouigan is that type of character, and Bernal, who is his partner, the house slave, that he's persuading to come with him to Mon Repos to start a new life, where they could have children and settle and just live an ordinary life. That's his dream.
So Bouigan is the slave.
Yes, he's the Maroon, the runaway slave.
Right,
Yes.
and then his wife's name is what?
Bernal.
Bernal. And they are living on a plantation.
Right. He goes and works the revolts, leads the insurrections.
Okay.
She's still caught up on the plantation. She's the master's house slave and master's wife. But he always comes back to try and persuade her to go with him to Mon Repos. But she is reluctant because, you know how you ladies love security.
This is working out for me now, and I'm gonna move.
Right.
Yes.
So that's it. So she's like, no, I can't go for all this wars happening there. So I can't go. And he comes trying to persuade her. He doesn't give up. Now, interestingly, remember they're burning the plantations, but he's not burning this particular plantation that she's on because she's there. But in the end, he can't take it again. You know why? Because there was a plot now by the master of that plantation to get his head for the British. The master made what we call a complot, a deal, struck a deal with the British, right? To get Bouigan's head, and then now the British promised him that gave him a safe passage to Martinique and then to Trinidad. So when Bouigan learns of that, because Bernal tells him, they try to get Bernal to betray Bouigan as well. And she struggles, but she doesn't. So when he learns of that, then he decided to set the plantation on fire, and he was able now to bring Bernal and the master's wife as well with him.
Well, now, wow, it's so interesting. I want to summarize everything that he has said for our Spanish-speaking audience as well. La obra es... Esta vez was set in St. Lucia, yes?
In St. Lucia.
Estaba en Santa Lucía y el carácter principal se llama Bouigan, y él tiene una esposa, se llama Bernal.
Yes.
Y siempre estaba preguntando a ella, por favor, vámonos para Mon Repos, pero ella tenía miedo, no es seguro, yo quiero quedarme aquí, y él estaba directiendo, o sea, estaba luchando a otros, a los, how you say they were fighting the
colonial powers, yeah.
Colonial powers.
The French and British.
Okay, los jefes, the bosses at the time, the British, la gente de Londres, o sea, Londres, y you said they were from France as well, right? The French, right? Los plantadores franceses y los plantadores inglesas, and fue mal para mí porque él me dijo que Bouigan y su esposo y la esposa de él plantador fue a
Catherine.
Mon Repos, que se llama Catherine también. Pero él quiere compartir la historia como algo positiva. He wants to share the story as something positive para que la gente recordar la historia del Caribe en diferentes islas. You want us to look at it positively. What we have seen through the islands, the movement, el movimiento de los esclavos. They want us to see the movement of the slaves, and one thing to know. Gosh, that man. El carácter principal. Buiga.
Yeah. Don't feel bad because my actors had a problem getting it at first. It took a little while. Yeah.
Buiga pudo hablar. He habló inglés, criolla,
And French.
y Francia. Okay, so he had French, Creole, and English on his tongue para que comunicar con el jefe, se comunique with the boss y los otros esclavos, and su esposa y la gente de otras islas, right? People from other islands.
Right. Let me just give you just a little history that's very important to understand the context, right? So remember that at first, the island of Saint Lucia, not just Saint Lucia, but Saint Martinique and the others, in Grenada, right? The French got there and then established themselves. Now the French strategy of colonization was a little different. When they get there, they establish parishes, they build a road around the island, right? So they have all the churches and so on, the Roman Catholic churches everywhere, and then they have the plantations, right? So they were established in Saint Lucia, right, for maybe about the 1600s or so. Then now, of course, the British are coming in. Now, the British won many times because a famous thing about Saint Lucia is that we were 7 times French, 7 times British. But when the British were coming in, even when they won, it was just that they never were able to settle around the island in the way the French had. So the French were still already there, even when the British won over the island. It was just like a strategic outpost for the British, so they could look at the Spanish going up to Hispaniola and all the places and Cuba and try and see what they could, So, but what happened now? After the Haitian Revolution, right? Well, the major Haitian revolt in 1791, the French abolished slavery in all its colonies. The British had not done that yet. The British did not like that the French had abolished slavery. Because at that time, the sugar was king. And these colonial powers were making a lot of money from sugar. Right? So they were coming in now and they wanted to reimpose slavery in the French colonies like Saint Lucia and so on. So the revolutionary leaders like Buiga, for example, would be caught in the middle there because they're there with the French, who are very present on the island. The British are coming in, and if you know how that politics at that level works, the British are trying to buy out those leaders, those local, leaders, so to speak, right? So it means then that people like Buiga have to navigate between those colonial powers. So the British actually succeeded in reimposing slavery on the island. So the play is set within that turbulence, that turbulent period. And so what I'm looking at there, I'm just looking at basically simply a man and his woman. An ordinary black man and his woman, he's a freedom fighter and his woman. And all he wants is just go to Mon Repos, take her to Mon Repos.
What was so good about Mon Repos that he had to go to Mon Repos?
Well, Mon Repos, interesting you ask that, really means wipo. Wipo means peace. Rest,
so Mon Repos may not necessarily be a place.
Yeah, it is a physical place.
But it means
because
peace.
Right, but it really means Mon Repos. More there is so it's my peace, my place of peace, my place of relaxation,
wow.
So on. But in Saint Lucia, the Mon Repos that we have is actually a place on the coast, very beautiful, a community on the coast, the hillside. Used to be an Amerindian settlement as well, so you can see down into the sea. The people there live off the sea, but they also live off the land where they plant cassava and they plant various things and so on. So his dream is just basically to go there, make some good love to his woman and make children, start a family and so on. And so, like I was telling you, that is what I'm getting at, how these two individual people, how they struggle through that political turbulent period there in order to just start an ordinary life for themselves. You know, but we also have the Plantains who are caught up in this thing there, who the wife is a poet, she's an artist, she's a writer, and she's never been in support of the plantocracy, you know. But the husband, of course, he inherited it, he inherited the system, and he wants to see its continuation. But he can't now because the place is being burned down. Now he wants to head to Trinidad, right, to settle in Trinidad. That's based on historical fact, you know, because they did come over to Trinidad, the French planters.
And we have a Mon Repos in Trinidad.
You do. You have two.
More than one en Mon Repos en Trinidad. So, la obra es muy importante porque no puedo traducir todo lo que dijo él. Okay, so he said a lot. So I wouldn't want to translate everything porque para la gente en Venezuela que quieren ver a la obra, puedes verla el viernes que viene, el 11, y también el 12 de abril, viernes y sábado. Y la obra es algo muy importante sobre la historia caribeña, y también es en la obra hay información sobre la conexión entre Trinidad y Tobago y otras islas del Caribe y Venezuela y la comunidad latina. Not so? There are a lot of nuggets in the play that shows the connection, not just for the English-speaking Caribbean countries, but the Latin-speaking Caribbean countries, how we get that connection there. That's why I wanted to do this interview, and there's so much to go into, you know, where cuando los plantadores franceses tuvo una manera diferente de colonizar a los plantadores de, no Londres, las plantadores inglesas. So there was a different way of doing things with the French and the English, and you would think that because of this, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, the people of the Caribbean islands, the people of the Spanish-speaking Caribbean, people of the Caribbean as a whole, we have such resilient people because we didn't ask. We weren't in a position to say, please, come to our island, take advantage of us. We didn't do that. Or we weren't any way where, even when, and I wanted to mention this, even when we were fighting back for our space, I don't think we were fighting back for it because we want to get them out, yes, not just that, but we were fighting for peace. And that's why this word Mon Repos comes into play. Because Mon Repos could be the place, but it also is significant. Mon Repos también significa mi paz. Significa un placer, un lugar, o puede significar algo diferente. So it can mean a literal place, un lugar literal, and it could also mean a place within, a desirable place. You want peace. Yo voy a luchar para mi gente, para el país. Por favor, yo quiero paz. You know, I will fight for everything I have. I want peace. So that is what this play is about. Absolutely. It's not just historical, but it brings us back to where we are now.
Our humanity. But here's the connection to Venezuela. Yes. That is really interesting. As you would know, when the enslaved Africans from the French colonies were brought to Trinidad, they started working on the cocoa plantations as well, along with the cocoa pañol. Right?
So they had to speak somehow, right?
So I hear this, and if you study Trinidad well, right, you will realize that if you look at places like Blanchisseuse, Paramin, this other place now named Lopino,
correct.
Right? What do you notice about these places? These places all had Patois Creole speaking populations. But these places were also the seat of Parang.
Yes, till this day.
They were also the seat of Parang. So you had, which is a Creole form. It's a Creole form. We speak a lot about Parang, it's Spanish. It has a strong Spanish element, but it's a Creole form because the original thing is Parandera, right? That's the Spanish. But the parang had an infusion from those who came, the Creole, those who came over and on the cocoa plantation.
Maybe that's why it wasn't making sense at some point to most people. Él estaba diciendo que, por ejemplo, el parang, para comunicar que hay una conexión entre Venezuela y Trinidad y la gente de las islas que habla francés, right? Francés. So, parang is música predominantly, or I would say deeply rooted, profundamente de Venezuela, pero había partes de parang de Creole.
The Creole speaking, the Pato speaking slaves who came across.
De los esclavos que estaba, que hablaron, lo siento.
So they spoke in Spanish, but the rhythms and the elements, you know, when you, because I'm sure you.
Or maybe the stories in it.
Yeah, but if you listen to parang well, you see, you realize there's some variations. You'd see that some parang that has a very strong rhythmic element. Right? You have some that just seems very Spanish.
So you would say it's in the rhythm or in the verbiage?
But what I was talking to you about a while ago, it's also in the social dynamic, because remember those who came here when they enslaved from the French colonists came here and they mixed with the cocoa Payol, they had to make their place. As well as those coming from Venezuela had to make their place. It found expression in the music, but there is a combination of elements that brought it. Another thing too, on some of the coast of Venezuela, a lot of those people from the French colonies who first settled in Trinidad, many of them migrated to the coast of Venezuela. So some other people have done research at University of the West Indies. You know, people like Joan Ferreira, and there's a young man who was not at a university called Namdi Hodge. They've done some research into people on the coast of Venezuela who speak patois. Do you know that? Spanish, the Spanish-speaking people speak patois because their ancestors migrated from the plantations in Trinidad, the cocoa plantations, to Venezuela. So these people speak Spanish, but they also speak patois.
So this is what the play will be explaining. The play is going to incorporate all of that. La obra incorpora los lejados duraderos del lenguaje de criolla, de criol y patois. Y, pero no hay, there's not too much Spanish in it right now. Might get any music, all right? Gonna have a little music in it, of course,
Yeah,
of course, I know that.
Yeah, I said
La
some
música,
photos.
but I was wondering too, based on this picture and how I felt about the whole play, there was a spiritual element in it as well.
Absolutely, there is.
Yes,
there
so
is.
that's why I put that here and I said, you know what, la música y la espiritualidad africana, because they have the African slaves, los cuales han sido herramientas de resistencia y supervivencia para los pueblos caribeños. And I was saying that because it wasn't just the music, it wasn't just the language, it had to be something spiritual, because I remember, and I know this from teaching, when we had Spiritual Baptist Day, what was the history behind that?
Yes.
They did not know what they were saying, and they found the music to be loud, so they said, "Hear what?
Right.
You don't want to hear it anymore. You're banned. You can't." And I didn't know this, but Trinidad and Tobago was the first country to make Spiritual Baptist a holiday, you know. And now we celebrate that, and that's also part of our history.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, so
but why do you think the people were making their presence felt and claiming their space and saying, "Here, we're part of this here, and hear us and see us," So that's what it's about as well. Now, interestingly, I was able to incorporate some of the Orisha elements, you talk about spirituality, in the play as well, because the Burnell and Bwiga, that's how they connect as well. When we know that when the pressure gets really rough on people, what they turn to the spirit, and they turn to the spirit that they have at the time. Now, for Burnell and Bwiga at that time, what they had was their deities. So what I was able to do was to have Burnell and Bwiga go both train that those who are, that is So let me mention the actor's name. So that's Ruben Andrews, who's playing Wigger in the play. And then we have Nyamka Wellington, who is playing Burnell, right? You know, quite coincidentally.
All these are trainees?
They're trainees.
Okay.
They're schooled as well in Orisha and in some of the Afro-religious expressions. So we're able to bring that into the rituals and the dances in the play.
Okay, nice.
You know, which
naturally.
works
Naturally.
which works excellently for Burnell and Brigger because they needed the spiritual strength in order to survive and navigate themselves through all what was happening to them, you know. But let me also mention the other two actors. So we have Jeron Ritz, and he's from Arima, and he's mixed. So he has some Spanish in him.
Okay.
Jeron Ritz. He's playing the planter, right? Very talented guy. They're all extremely talented. And then we have Zena Joseph. She's Senoshan, only Senoshan in the play, and she's playing Catherine, that is the planter's wife. You know, so it's a small cast but brilliant young people, very talented, very committed, and so on. And you're right, Venezuela is going to see a strong production.
So Venezuela, prepárate, por favor. Los actores son de Trinidad, not Trinidad and Tobago, just Trinidad, right?
Yeah.
Well, we are Trinidad and Tobago,
Well,
right?
yeah, they represent
Son
the
de
whole
Trinidad,
Trinidad,
hay 4
yes.
actores y ellos van a mostrar una cobra muy, ¿cómo se dice? Muy famosa. We're going to make a very famous play because I was told that this play is moving on, right? It's touching Venezuela. It's not just touching only Venezuela, it will continue to touch the other
We've had a
islands.
reading in Miami, a stage reading in Miami, that was directed by Philip Church. He's a professor at Miami International University. That went very well with actors from the Miami Art Studio. Yeah, so where I did the launching of the book. So we did it in Miami first, and then it was done in Florida as well at the Wellington Library in 2022. That's where it was first done.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's for me, I've been
Maybe
pushing
one
it.
day you might do the play in Spanish too.
I think I should.
Quizás la obra va a ser en español también.
Absolutely.
Tenemos ganas de verla.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean the Spanish and Venezuela in particular, they have some, Simon Bolivar, the ethos, the angst, of liberation. That is very strong in Venezuela.
I have a very, I don't want to say weird question to ask, but I'm listening to you and I'm wondering now. Puiga, he represents our spirit.
Absolutely.
Because if you really look at how, even to this day, how we protest things we don't like. And we have a kind of, girl, they jumping in the road again, they getting on vex again. But when we want something, we go for it.
Freedom.
And I believe that the Latin people have that naturally better than us here in Trinidad.
Absolutely.
You can, I love it. I love how they pick up. So, just to wrap things up, Venezuela, por favor, el doctor Weeks espera que el público obtenga una comprensión más profunda de cómo la historia da forma de la identidad y que se vean reflejados en historias de resistencia, migración y pertenencia. So just to put that in English terms for those who want to hear, he hopes to bring to the audience a deeper understanding of how history shapes our identity and how we see ourselves being reflected in stories of resistance, migration, and belonging. Because I always tell people, a lot of people will ask me, no, I always tell people my English is not good, my Spanish is not good, my Creole is not good, and my Trini Creole is perfect. But I'm always ready to learn. And what I love about being a Caribbean lady is that we are constantly exposed to new words, new expressions, new practices every day. just sitting here with you, Dr. Weeks, for less than an hour, and I learned some patois. I learned a bacchanal name. I could go out there and say, why you can also bigwa? Bigwa.
Bigwa.
Bigwa. Why you can also bigwa? So your name is bigwa. You know, because that is also an adjective as well as a name, right?
It's
a noun and an adjective.
Absolutely.
And we would love to see this play be done in Spanish. You know, maybe when you do it in Spanish, you come back right here on Guy of the Caribbean to tell us where to go. And do it in Trinidad too. You don't have to go far, you know, we have plenty so you don't say, you know.
That's it.
You don't have to go far at all.
That's it.
And if you wanted to know the cost, has the cost changed?
Of the book, of the
No,
play?
of the play.
I don't know the cost in Venezuela, I don't know.
Oh, I saw it as 350 Bs or something like that.
Okay, all right.
Right, but I'm not sure. Check it up. They can go to any site to get it. Where can they
I'll
get
be
this
honest, I
information?
don't know. They sent me
The
stuff.
link.
They sent me stuff that I have I could send to you.
Do
and
you
can share it with
have a
them. Yeah.
page or?
Oh, you mean on my
can we get
handle
it?
by Facebook, Travis
Right.
Weeks, yeah.
Okay.
All the information is there.
So you can go to
Yeah.
Aqui con Kyna because I posted it there as well, and you could also go to his page. I will tag him in that post to get more information about this play and how significant, how relevant it is, and just attend. I wish I could have been across there, but I have things to do next weekend. I have things to do, people to meet,
It's this weekend.
and trouble to
So
start.
you can come.
It's this weekend, the 11th and 12th, right? To this
Right.
weekend, I have a commitment on the 12th. Yes, correct. So, Dr. Weeks, I want to thank you so much. Now, for those who are listening to us here, you get a little bit of the Spanish, you get a little bit of the English, a little bit of the Creole. That is a language.
Oui.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. But I went to a trans-languaging course in UE, and they said, do not stop people from saying, he went there and he... That is a language.
Absolutely.
Trini Creole is a language. Standard English is a language. Spanish is a language. Spanish dialect is a language. So embrace the different languages. As a Caribbean people,
Absolutely.
we have a lot to share, a
Yes.
lot to cover,
Yes.
and a lot to reminisce on in a positive aspect. Yes.
We survived.
Anything you would like to tell them about the book, where they can get the book, how much it costs?
Right. Well, there are copies at the paper-based bookshop in
Trinidad and
Trinidad and Tobago. I will carry some in Venezuela when I'm going as well. I can be contacted as well for copies. There is a Creole translation as well. So it's in both English and Creole. So the Creole was translated by my father, Alan Weeks. So, you know, it's really a tremendous gift because it's in 2 languages. Take me to Mon Repos.
Give me your number again so we can put
Mon
it.
Repos. Yeah, it's 339-4031.
339
4031.
4031. Okay. Bueno. Josiah, por favor. We want to show his name and his contact on screen for those who are interested in getting the book and wanted to see the play. You know, we always like to support our Caribbean people. And I could say you're a Trini now. You've been in Trinidad for so long.
I'm a Caribbean man,
Yeah, Caribbean man. I like that. I'm a Caribbean man.
Solution,
Saint
Jamaican, Bajan, Trinidadian, everywhere. Canadian.
But how many languages do you speak?
I pull the Caribbean within me. You know,
Really?
I love the Caribbean.
Was your father also from St. Lucia?
Yes.
And
parents
mommy
Saint
as
Lucia.
well?
Yes, yes.
Right.
Yes,
So what made you
but-
come to Trinidad?
Well, I came so that I could be here and get the experience and write this play and eventually do the interview with you.
Perfect answer. With that, y'all, I will have this interview on my YouTube page, Aqui con Kyna, hopefully before the weekend so that y'all can get more information. Once again, Dr. Travis Weeks, thank you so much. His number 339
4031.
4031. Okay, so we have the 1868 in front, of course. 339 4031.
Merci.
It's on the screen.
Merci un pile. Gracias.
Get in contact,
Thank
find
you.
out more about the play. And Venezuela!
La force est couaille.
La force est
couaille. Strength
What does it
and
mean?
courage. La force est couaille.
La force est couaille. Oh,
Strength
God,
and
I can learn
courage.
something.
La route c'est che.
La ut se che.
La ut seche.
What I
Along
mean?
the journey, take heart. You must have a strong heart.
La ut.
La ut.
La ut
Seche. Seche.
I can speak.
Chebewed pamoli.
Chebere pamoli.
Chebewed pamoli. Hold tight,
Chebewed
don't let
pamoli.
go.
Oh, wow.
Chebewed pamoli.
Chebewed
See how language is
pamoli.
important because they have
Yeah,
concepts and
yeah.
words. These are things. I'm saying this to you. That's what your grandmother would tell you. Your
Well,
grandfather
the
would
parts
tell
what
you.
I knew at home, I can't say on TV. I know that for sure because I remember growing up and hearing my aunt say some patois,
Yeah.
and I thought it was.
It's supposed to make you stronger too, don't worry.
I said it until I get. Don't say that. So I am not going to say what I know in
Just
patois
feel
on
it,
TV.
don't say it. Yeah.
So Dr. Travis Weeks, thank you once again for coming here. I know we did not cover everything, but we just want to let the Trinidadian public know that we have a very talented man in our midst who is producing plays, because this is not the only play or books that he has touched base on. There are others called
You mean my other place?
Oh, yes,
the
Bodies,
Fight for Bellevue.
the Fight for
Field
Bellevue,
of Power.
Bellevue.
Bellevue. You call it
Bellevue.
You could say Bellevue.
Bodies,
Bellevue. Bodies, Memories and Spirits.
Yes,
About
so
the
he has
cultural
many,
forms
many
and so
more.
on.
So
Yes,
he
sir.
earned that title, he continues to sustain that title, and he's bringing it to Venezuela. I have one more question. Why Venezuela? Why you chose to bring it to Venezuela now?
Well, there's a theatre festival happening.
In Venezuela right
23
now.
countries are participating in that theatre festival.
Are we one of them?
Yes. Well, yeah, I'm representing Trinidad.
No, Trinidad, as in we have a theatre thing going on here.
No. Well,
No.
this we remember my actors are Trinidadians, except just one.
Yeah.
So and I work here, so we represented Trinidad.
Okay.
But there are other countries in Latin America. When you go to a festival in Trinidad, in Venezuela, you get a lot of countries from Latin America as well. People that you wouldn't meet before, but it's just great just interacting with them and learning of their culture and realizing the similarities as well that we
Nice.
have.
I know we could go on and on because I love to talk and he could talk. So we are going to wrap it up. He has things to go and do. Thank you so much, everyone, for this exclusive interview. You know how Kyna do it. We keep it natural. We keep it real. Okay? We keep it real and natural. We let it flow. Okay? So see you soon for my show tonight. No te vas a ningún lado.
Messi.
Merci beaucoup.
Pueche.
I think, I don't know. Gracias. Okay, chao, pues. Hasta luego.